Hello everyone, I'm Amrita from Spinner Story, and continuing the series I'm doing on the life stories of authors, I bring you R.K. Narayan today, the man who gave us Malgudi. So what can I tell you about him? He is one of the most successful writers we've had in our country for literature, English literature, and he was one of the three prominent and pioneering writers in early English literature in India. And of course, Malgudi was this lovely little fictional small town that he created for us in South India, which has a cult following pretty much all over the world. So in a career spanning 60 years, his greatest accomplishment was that he brought India out to the world. He portrayed India out to the larger world. So let's hear his story today. R.K. Narayan was actually born Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Iyer Narayan Swamy on the 10th of October in 1906. Now you'll ask me, why is the name so long? Because in Tamil Nadu they would add the name of the village first and then the name of the father, and they would even include the name of the caste in the name, which is why the names are so long. So he was born in Madras, in the Madras Presidency in British ruled India, which is why the map is looking very different. This was pre-independence, if you remember, and of course in today's time it would be Chennai and in the state of Tamil Nadu. So he belonged to a typical upper class Iyer Brahmin family. It was a large family. Here's a portrait of the entire family. His mother was Jnanambal and father was Venkatraman. Here is his dad's picture, another sketch. His father was a headmaster in school, and here was young Narayan posing for the picture together. So it was a large family. They were 8 siblings, 6 boys and 2 girls, and he was the second oldest son. Now an interesting fact is that this family put a lot of emphasis on speaking in English. In fact, they spoke English most of the time, and even small errors on the part of the kids in terms of grammar were really frowned upon. So very interesting part to share. Now his youngest brother was the famous R.K. Lakshman. Okay, for those of you who don't know, he was a famous cartoonist and illustrator. Here he's drawn a cartoon of himself with the common man. And who was the common man? The common man was a strip that he used to do for the Times of India, depicting, you know, the issues that the common man faced. So he was like the voice of India for a long time. Now, early childhood. Since his father used to travel a lot, he was raised by his maternal grandmother, Parvati. Here is my depiction of the two of them together, and she had a nickname for him called Kunjappa. Kunjappa in Tamil is something of a rebel, something of a maverick, which was really prophetic because he turned out to be just that as he grew up. So she was a very accomplished lady. She taught him many subjects. There was arithmetic, mythology, classical Indian music, and Sanskrit. So he had a really well-rounded education right from childhood. He says his playmates, early playmates, were a mischievous monkey and a peacock. So here, you know, I'd like to point out that how important our formative years are, and the kind of education you get then really shapes you for life to come. So as he grew older, his father moved to Mysore and he brought the kids there as well. And he was, Narayan was a very avid book lover. So he loved English fiction. He would read, you know, Arthur Conan Doyle, Woodhouse, Thomas Hardy and Dickens. He was always found in a library. In fact, his father had a private library and he would be found there as well. And of course, he finished high school, he went to college in the mid-20s and he graduated. He got a bachelor's degree, and his first job was as a school teacher at the behest of his father. And in fact, it didn't land up being a job for too long, because the headmaster there asked him to take a class of physical training, which he refused to do because he felt it wasn't his job. He decided to quit teaching, stay at home and become a writer. That was a very unusual and unorthodox choice at the time, but his family supported him. He wanted to do that. He didn't earn as much, but he was very happy. So he started off writing articles for newspapers and magazines, which really made him interact a lot with people. He used to walk a lot in search of stories, and that's how he got this rich idea of you know, all these characters that later came on into his stories. Now he was on a holiday in 1933. He went to visit his sister at Coimbatore, and there he met this pretty 15-year-old girl called Rajam, and they instantly fell in love and they wanted to marry. Now it was a very unusual thing to have a love marriage at that time, and in any case they had some other complications because of which it was a little difficult to get married, but they did do that. And you'll also wonder, especially the younger lot watching today, is that how can he marry a 15-year-old? Well, it was quite common in those days. Remember, we are talking about a long time back, of almost 100 years ago. Then after marriage, they had this little girl called Hema. She was his only child because unfortunately his wife died at the young age of 21, just 6 years into the marriage, due to typhoid. And he never married again. But what was he doing professionally? So in those days, he was a reporter for a Madras-based paper. It was called The Justice. It was fighting and writing for the rights for non-Brahmins. And they really loved having him over because he was a Brahmin, and for him to fight for their rights was really something that they really liked and appreciated about him. Now I wanted to show you some other pictures from his home. So here is him with a young Hema, and this was his home in Lakshmipuram. Here he's writing with the portrait of Rajam up on the shelf, and of course his mother, brother, and with his nieces. So just to show you a typical slice of life in Tamil Nadu in the 1940s. Now let's talk about his literary career. So in those days, he had started a journal called Indian Thought, and he had many subscribers, but unfortunately he couldn't run it very well. So he kind of shelved that idea and he started writing a book. So his first book of short stories was called Swami and Friends, and he started writing in 1930. So now there's a very interesting story about the day he started writing. His grandparents chose this day of Vijayadashmi 1930, considered very auspicious for new beginnings, and that's when he sat down to write. Now Swami and Friends was about this young boy called Swami and his group of friends. It was semi-autobiographical, talking about what these kids were going through, and it was based in the town of Malgudi, about which I will be telling you very shortly. So like all struggling writers who then became famous, he had a lot of problem getting this book published, and he was refused by a lot of publishers. So he sent this to a friend of his in Oxford, who then showed it to Graham Greene, who was a very famous writer and novelist at that time, and he loved it. He sent it to his publisher, the publisher agreed, and in 1935 this book came out. And imagine, it was actually published in Britain and not his own country. And I wanted to show you these really lovely covers of the books, from how it changed over the years. Every time it was reprinted, they came up with a nice lovely cover. I wanted to show them. And then of course the next 3 books that he wrote also were published with the help of Graham Greene. So there was Bachelor of Arts, which came out in 1937, and then the following year came Darkroom. So this dealt with college life and adolescence. This dealt with marital strife and oppression in a marriage. And The English Teacher, which came in 1945, was actually really autobiographical, in the sense it talked about the teacher losing his wife to disease, and of course it reflected this really dark and depressing time that he went through when he lost his wife. Now I am going to come to Malgudi. Okay, now before I start talking about Malgudi and how it came about, I want to sing a little tune for you to kind of get you into this nostalgic mode. So ta na 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 na, ta na 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 na. I'm sure the older lot watching today, it'll just take you back to the mid-80s, which is when a series called Malgudi Days had premiered on TV. So to tell you about how Malgudi started. And the day he sat down, I told you the day of Vijayadashmi, when he sat down to write his first story, this idea of an image of a railway station flashed, across his mind, and then he came up with this name Malgudi. And he says that I saw a man called Swaminathan actually walking down the platform. That is how Malgudi came to him. In his own words, it was all ready-made. Okay, so that's how Malgudi started. And of course he was a great writer, so he created this impeccable historical record for Malgudi. Okay, so he said, okay, the town came from the time of the Ramayana. Lord Ram might have passed through it, the Buddha had visited it, so it had this historical credence to it. And what was this town all about? So it was a typical South Indian, small, slow, dusty town. Okay, it had regular people, everyday places, and everyday problems. So why did it become such a big hit, and the idea that really appealed to people was because despite the fact that the characters and the condition that he had set them in were very, very Indian, with Indian values, the dilemmas they faced, the problems they faced, and human nature is universal. So that is why it has appealed to people in all corners of the world. So this is the reason behind Malgudi. And of course I wanted to also share that this tune had become such an epic tune. It was an instant hit. It was a big theme there. In fact, it became as famous as the series itself, and it was composed by this Carnatic musician called Lakshmi Narayan Vaidyanathan. And I wanted to tell you about him as well. So what else about Malgudi? I have some very cute caricatures. Here is R.K. Narayan sitting on his desk, on his typewriter, with this map of Malgudi. I'll show you a map of Malgudi in a bit. And he is thinking up all these characters, you know, the fruit sellers, the vendor of sweets, the astrologers, the kids, and all these people who made Malgudi. And here's another very interesting caricature from later times, where he is sitting in a room writing on his desk, and all these characters are waiting outside the door, just waiting for a chance to get into one of his novels. So here is a very nice map of Malgudi. It was made by a literary scholar who was studying R.K. Narayan, called Dr. James Fennelly, and he actually read all the books and he came up with this really beautiful map. So like a typical small town in South India at that time, it had, you know, the town square. So there was this circle here, and there was the market road. The town even had a river and hills. The river was Saryu, and there were these Mempi hills. And of course there was a Malgudi cricket club, there was a haircutting saloon, there was a school, there was a temple, and you know, the talkies. Now kids will not know what talkies is. Talkies were movie theaters, film theaters at that time. So that's how this whole Malgudi became such a craze, and it figured in 14 novels and 8 short stories that he did. So you know, Malgudi Days came out in 1942. It was a short story collection of 19 stories, and of course then came so many. Swami and Friends, I told you already, was based in Malgudi, which he had written earlier. Then there was Tiger for Malgudi, then there was a Man-Eater of Malgudis. There was even a book. So there was even a book called Waiting for the Mahatma, where it seems that Mahatma Gandhi also visited Malgudi. So lots and lots of stories based on this beautiful fictional town. Now in the 80s, I wanted to tell you, came that big series called Malgudi Days, right? I remember as a child, I wanted to pack my bags and move to Malgudi. Of course, there was no Google there, so there was nothing to kill or burst my dream. So I wanted to show you some pictures from that. So this series was actually filmed during 85 and 86. It premiered in 86. It came on Doordarshan. It was in English and as well as in Hindi. And I remember the entire generation of kids who grew up in the 80s would be transfixed and sitting in front of their TVs when it came. So the first 3 series came in the 80s and so on. And then in 2016 came the last series, which was about 15 episodes. So in total they had about 54 episodes. Now not all the episodes came from the Malgudi Day stories. There were episodes from Swami and Friends, there were episodes from Vendor of Sweets, and also from this book called A Horse and Two Goats that he had written. So this was a picture I wanted to show you of the director Shankar Nag. So Shankar Nag was a very acclaimed actor and director in Karnataka. So he was the one who filmed the first 3 series, and here is R.K. Lakshman on the set. Here's another picture of Mr. Nag with all the kids who took part in the series. And here is a DVD cover. Of course DVDs came much later, but DVD cover of Malgudi Days with the sketch made by his brother R.K. Lakshman. In fact, all the episodes in the beginning used to have a sketch which was made by R.K. Lakshman specially for the series. Now, if Malgudi didn't really exist, where was this shot? So this was shot in the town of Agumbe. I will just talk about it in a bit. But what they did was they got all the people from this town also to take part in it, and they used the locations there. Sometimes they modified it and tweaked it a bit. So it was like a great mela that was going on at the town on the days of the shooting. Now I wanted to show you my favorite, which was Swami and Friends. That was my favorite. Those were my favorite episodes. And here he is having filter coffee with his mom, with his group of friends, and up to mischief and things. So what is really remarkable about R.K. Narayan is that he could get into the psychology of kids. How do kids think? What are their dreams? What are their aspirations? What is their perspective? Which is why any kid all over the world could immediately relate to the stories of Swami and his friends. So here is Agumbe. Let me show you where it is. It's in Karnataka, okay? And here of course is Bangalore and Mysore, and here is this beautiful little place where it was shot. This is Dodamani, which is the house called, if you translate in Kannada, it means big house. So this is the house where Swami lived, as in they shot Swami's house here. So there was a lady called Kasturi Akka who used to own this place, and then for the longest time she converted it into a homestay where you could go and stay in the upper floors. You pay her whatever you wanted and she was glad to have you over. She would even cook meals for you. So if you were a Malgudi Day fan, this was heaven for you. You could have gone and stayed in Swami's house. Now this here is the Malgudi Museum. Now how did the museum come about? So the Indian Railways said that since the symbol of Malgudi was a railway station, they wanted to create a museum for Malgudi. So there was a station in the Southwest Railways, and the Mysore division decided, let's convert this station called Arasulu or Arasulu, whichever way you pronounce it, into a museum. And that's what they did. So the train actually rides, comes into the museum. You can have a look at it. Everything to do with Malgudi is there. So if you're a die-hard fan, this station is a place where you absolutely must be. So Malgudi, excellent place. In fact, I remember a quote of R.K. Narayan where he said, Malgudi is where we all belong and where we all wished we lived. So really lovely place. Now I want to talk to you about his other literary works. So in 1951 came his book called The Financial Expert, which is considered his masterpiece. It's supposed to be the most original of works in literature, in fact all over the world, simply because it delves in very deep into human psychology in a very simple way. So the story is about the financial expert, again based in Malgudi, a man whose office was actually under a banyan tree. He sat with his desk under a banyan tree. So it's you must see it, must check it out, sorry, if this is you want to see one of his best works. And of course the first movie that was made on one of his books was Mr. Sampath. The movie came out in 1952 based on the novel, which was actually a few years before that it was published, and it was a comedy satire. So imagine, this man had such a vast repertoire. Now in the 50s, he went on a trip abroad. Now in those days, going abroad was a big deal. Everybody didn't really get to go there. And he went to England. He met Graham Greene, his friend. He met him for the first time, this man who had published his books and had literally put him on the world map. He met him. Here they are, at a BBC talk show in the BBC office. And in fact, this trip was the only trip he met him. They never met after that. And then he went to the US. Now in the US, he went on a Rockefeller Fellowship. And while he was there, he penned his thoughts. There is this book called My Dateless Diary, which talks about all his experiences there. And there was another book which came in the 60s called The Vendor of Sweets, which was also inspired at the time that he was in the US about these cultural stereotypes between American and Indian cultures. And of course a lot of his books had been published in many different languages all over the world. Now this is something I'm going to share which might come as a surprise to some people, or maybe not, that the Hindi movie, Bollywood movie Guide was actually based on his novel by the same name called The Guide, which was published in 1958. Now this book, when it was published, again was set in Malgudi. He won the Sahitya Academy Award for this book, which is the highest literary award, one of the highest literary awards in our country. And then he was approached that they wanted to make a Bollywood movie on it. Unfortunately, they didn't, as per his wishes, they didn't shoot it in South India. They shot the movie in Rajasthan, but the movie starred Devanand and Wahida Rehman. It was a very unusual theme of a woman who is very unhappily married and she wants to be a dancer, and she's helped by this local tour guide Raju, who's a bit of a scoundrel, and eventually how this man turns into a spiritual guru. I wanted to show you this lovely vintage poster. I love these vintage Hindi movie posters. I wanted to show you those. And then this is a picture of him with Vijay Anand, who was the director of the movie. And then when this movie came out, he won a Filmfare Award for Best Story as well. So there was lots and lots he was up to. Another little known fact, he actually wrote mythological stories as well. So he wrote this one book in 1960s called Gods, Demons and Others, about, you know, short stories on Hindu epics, and he also translated the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. This one here, Mahabharata, from Sanskrit to English. So he put in a lot of work and doing these things as well. Now, if you really want to know him, the best way to go about it, apart from the museums, of course, is to read his memoir. So this is one of the original prints of his memoir. It came in 1974. This is, of course, a later cover where, of course, if you remember, his monkey and peacock friends from childhood are there. This is another page where you see his father, and here he signed and dedicated it to someone. So this story, you know, of his life is not just his life story. Actually, if you think of it, it's actually the story of India in a way, because he was born in British colonial times and all the way down to, you know, independence and then post-independence. So it's kind of like a bit of the story of India in a way as well. Now, his last book was called The Grandmother's Tale. This came out in 1992. So I remember I told you about the journal that he had. Later, he converted the journal into a publishing house, which was also called Indian Thought Publishing. So here this book was printed by that publishing house. Now, this was a very interesting story. Apparently, this was the story of his great-grandmother, who was married at a very young age. It was very common for kids 6, 7, 8 years old to be married, and her husband left her and moved away. Now, instead of being this sad wife who waited for him for the rest of her life, she was this gutsy girl who went out looking for him and got him back to start the family and to live with her, and they lived quite well after. So this was, you know, these themes that you would choose would be so unconventional, and so I think some of them are quite radical for those times. Now, in this day and age, a lot of us don't write letters, right? But having a postage stamp dedicated to you is still a very big honor. So he even had a postage stamp with his face on it. Then here is, I wanted to show you this Malgudi Times, fictional newspaper of a fictional town. And of course, the many awards. So I've already told you about the Sahitya Academy Award. I've told you about the Filmfare. Then of course, there were other awards. So he won the Padma Bhushan in 1964. And of course, in 2001, he got the second highest distinction in our country for a civilian, which is a Padma Vibhushan. Then came all the literary awards. So the British Society for Royal Society for Literature, they awarded him an A.C. Benson Medal in 1980. Then in 82 came the an honorary membership from the American Academy for the Arts and Letters. And again, a little known fact, he was nominated several times for the Nobel Prize for Literature. Unfortunately, he didn't win it, but that is still a big deal. And he had honorary doctorates from universities like Mysore and Delhi, and even going up to some in the UK. So another thing I wanted to point out is that he was also a member of the Rajya Sabha. It's like an endless list of the accomplishments of this gentleman. So he was a member from 1989 to 95. Okay, and in those 6 years that he was a Rajya Sabha member, he really pushed forward the agenda for children and also for their rights and for education. So this is some very big contribution of his. And in 2014, Google kind of honored him with a doodle for him, which is, you know, him reading his own book Malgudi Days with his face on the back cover. So a very lovely life with lots and lots of work that he gave us. Now there is one connection that R.K. Narayan has with Shakespeare, and you'll ask me what is that. So in England, they converted Shakespeare's house into a museum. to really give him a lot of respect. And the same thing happened in Mysore. So in 2016, his house was going to be brought down and converted into something else, and people started writing petitions that no, we want this house to be saved. So the Mysore Corporation bought this house and converted it into a museum. So on the first floor, he had these bay windows, you know, so this was called a bay room with 8 windows, which is where he would write. So, you know, he had another house, but he built this house in Yadavgiri in Mysore simply because he said, I wanted a writing retreat. So this was his own world where he would sit down and he would write his books and his articles and things like that. So this was a house that he had built specially for that. And of course, if you go, you may not see much of Malgudi here, because for that you have the Malgudi Museum, but you'll see a lot of his life over here. So for me, the takeaway, you know, from his life was that one should follow their passions and not give up, no matter how unconventional they may seem, because at the end of the day, it's your happiness that matters the most. And the second thing I really admired is that no matter what your profession is, if you wish to create value in this world, if you wish to do something for society and give back, you will definitely find a way to do that. So this session will be available on Spinner Stories Facebook and YouTube channels, and also of course on Instagram at spinnerstory.amrita. I hope you liked today's story. It's been very inspiring for me to bring it all together for you, and I hope to see you soon. Do leave me comments about what it is that you'd like me to hear, what are the authors you want me to cover. I'll see you around next time. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye bye.